Hello, today I would like to discuss the subject of transhumanism and its possible ethical implications. I've been trying to gear this channel toward elementary math and science. I think we can maybe fit this in under elementary science and its ethical implications. So, first of all, before I begin, for regular subscribers, I want to apologize. A lot of you have been PMing me and complimenting me. Some of you have been wanting to friend me. It's just been overwhelming. It's been great. I would say in the case of friending, I don't really do that, and it's nothing personal. Please do not take it personally. I appreciate your friendship, and friendship will evolve, but I don't friend in the way that maybe people do on YouTube or Facebook. I make friends over time, and it's just kind of my way. It's a privacy issue. It's an issue of the more friends you have in these institutions, the more it becomes an issue of advertising and commercials. So again, your friendship requests are greatly appreciated. A lot of you have wanted me to subscribe. It's just an issue of the overwhelming volume. I appreciate it. I don't want you to unsubscribe and feel offended. You're all great, and the support that you've given me over the past few weeks has truly been great. So let's march in. Let's get into the meat of this. I want to discuss transhumanism, which is an emerging movement that states that, well, it doesn't have one unifying philosophy, but the overwhelming gist of it is that the next step in human evolution will be some kind of merger of humanity with machines and or some type of manipulation of our genome. The latter one, the manipulation of our genome, I guess could be broadly placed under transhumanism in the sense that transhumanism can incorporate transgenic manipulation. The two tend to flow into one. Transhumanism is a movement of people who would call themselves futurists. They believe that in fusing humanity with machines, they are liberating humanity from the drudgery of being a biological organism subject to nature. I would argue that in a sense it's the culmination of the last 10,000 years, that when quote-unquote civilization took over from the hunter-gatherer period, more and more of the earth was brought under human control, and we're now at a point where we haven't made the wisest choices. We're now at the point of possibly the sixth major extinction. So we haven't made, our knowledge has outstripped our wisdom as a species. Now with transhumanism, we're taking that almost a step further. Supposedly it's supposed to be a great libertarian utopia. And I don't doubt that the people who earnestly believe this philosophy want it to be a great libertarian utopia, but you have to understand that I have my doubts about the wisdom of the human species when it comes to manipulating the natural world. I mean, it's not enough that we've exhumed a great many of these gases that are affecting the climate. It's not enough that we've caused the extinction of whole animal species. You know, we now have to throw in the manipulation of nature itself, of humans and animals. I suppose that it could be used for good. I suppose that just like genetic engineering could be used to bring back extinct species, and there are potentially good applications. My concern is, do we have the wisdom as a species to influence the genome in a way where we do it wisely and we do it with compassion? In other words, right now we have GMO seeds that are being used to shackle farmers to the big agribusinesses like Monsanto, to name one example. And also on the other front, the merging of humans with machines. Would we carry with us emotions like empathy, emotions like compassion? It's a hard say when it comes to machines. I would say that maybe the biggest concern that I would have with this whole concept of the quote next evolutionary leap of humankind would be who ultimately would control it. Now, a lot of you who are transhumanists believe that the individual would control it. It would be a great liberation from the shackles of being a biological being where you got to get up in the morning and go go through the whole rigmarole of your day. And the fact of the matter is that I don't know that the elites of humanity will allow you to be the one to control it. I believe that those of you who are transhumanists are sincere in wanting the individual to be able to control their own genome and to bioengineer themselves or merge themselves with a machine and travel through space and boldly go where no human has gone before, and all the great things that we all grew up hoping the future would be. And frankly, a lot of us are disappointed that we don't see that. And I can imagine that transhumanism would have an attraction for those of you disappointed that Star Trek hasn't become a reality, that all the worst aspects of the world seem to have come to the fore, even with the collapse of the Berlin Wall and apartheid, and let's say the late 80s and early 90s. There's a lot of idealism, but it hasn't really come to fruition. And so people glom onto movements like transhumanism, perhaps, I'm speculating, out of a sense of filling that void. But the fact of the matter is that I would say that the elites that control the world, the elites that in the 70s started to talk about how there was a crisis of democracy, quote unquote, like Samuel P. Huntington wrote. Okay, too much democracy, according to them. So we got a narrow democracy. We got to bring these Reaganites and the neoconservatives to power to restrict the democratic range of choices in the Western world and to sort of re-cement elite hegemony. I don't think those people are gonna necessarily, if those people have a technology like this, it's going to be about creating super soldiers. It's going to be about controlling, you have a genome and then you patent it, right? They want to be able to patent the human genome too, just like they want to be able to patent the animal genomes they create and the plant genomes they create. So you're talking about whole groups of people whose genome would be patented. Well, last time I checked, in our country here, we had a situation like that before the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Okay, and those of you who are African American, I'm sure, wouldn't want, God forbid, anything like that to return. I really sense that we have ethical dangers here, and we need a conversation about this before we start talking about the, quote, next step in human evolution. And, the term next step in human evolution has an ominous history. Do we have to get into eugenics? Do we have to get into the idea of purification of the race? Do we want a world in which physical deformities are just kind of gotten rid of? Do we want a world in which Asperger or autism are just kind of gotten rid of? Do we want a world where if there's some kind of genetic basis for homosexuality and parents suddenly have the right of selective abortion, there would be a disaster in the making? Unfortunately, a great many parents would choose the great many parents who have given the ultimate power of life and death at that stage. Okay, and I don't want to get into the issue of abortion right now, but I mean, it is an ethical issue. Would want the, quote, perfect child. That perfect child would be heterosexual in a lot of cases. That perfect child would be without any genetic, what are called deformities in the popular culture. I don't use that term, but the term is used in the popular culture. And autism would be, quote, cured, okay, which is the whole, if you see my video series on Asperger, you know how I feel about the cure movement. So in summation, what I would say is I don't believe there's such a thing as a technology that's inherently good or bad. That's not where I'm coming from. I know that a lot of you who are transhumanists think that those who oppose transhumanism are either fundamentalists or on the one hand, or radical environmentalists on the other hand. It'd be interesting, the two of those getting together. I personally am a person who believes in science. I believe in exploring the genome. I believe in exploring technology. I'm not necessarily saying that at some point use of this technology won't come to the fore, but I think that if we do, possibly, maybe come to the fore. But if we do, we need an ethical conversation about what we're doing here. And we need a whole lot more wisdom as a species that we don't have right now. That's my opinion. Thank you.